Hello and welcome to Real Watchers Movie Club. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are your hosts. Movie Club is the show where we pick a movie every week and discuss it just like a book club. On today's show, we are covering the mystery thriller Shutter Island. So, our thoughts and more coming up on Movie Club. Released in 2010, Shutter Island was directed by Martin Scorsese and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo, and Ben Kingsley. Teddy Daniels and Chuck Aule, two U.S. Marshals, are sent to an asylum on a remote island in order to investigate the disappearance of a patient, where Teddy uncovers shocking truth about the location. It is currently ranked 140 on IMDb's top 250 and currently has a 4.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Before we dive into the film, though, we do want to go ahead and issue a spoiler warning for the film. We are going to be talking about the twists and turns in this movie because it's very important to the movie. We highly recommend that if you are going to watch this movie, go watch it with no knowledge whatsoever of what happens in this movie, and the twist will be better. If you haven't seen the film yet, please do that. Stay tuned to the end of the show, though, to find out what movie we're covering next week, because it's quite the change in tone from the movies we've been covering lately. Okay, Kevin, and we are back to it being your turn this week, and you have selected Shutter Island from Martin Scorsese. What was the reasoning for picking Shutter Island? Was it just something you wanted to watch again? Hadn't seen it before? What's the justification here?
I think I watched this before we started this little series that we have, and I absolutely adored it. I love like movies that mess with your mind a lot, and you have to think about certain scenarios, and then it all just gets the end of the movie just gets tied up in a little bow, and you're so satisfied at the end of it. So that's what I picked it, because I did want to watch it again because of how much I liked it the first time.
Sure. And luckily it's on IMDb's top 250, so it qualifies for something that we can watch here on the show. I had seen this movie pretty close to when it came out. I think my mom and I were watching it one night while I was in high school because we were both interested in it. And then I had watched it actually a couple of months ago, as it was a movie I think that you had that won the Wheel of Fate on our live stream. And so I did watch it and review it already. So this is a film that I have already reviewed. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. If you do follow either of us on Letterboxd, you can see right below our names here that you can see those reviews as they go up. But I think this movie is very good. I'm not going to say in any way that I don't think it's Martin Scorsese's best. I don't even think it's near his best films. But I'll get into that a little bit more as we talk. But so since this was your pick, why don't you kind of lead it off? Like, what stood out to you the most about the film, and kind of what you're looking at?
The twists and turns in this movie just got me, because I remember seeing it trailer-wise when it first came out, and it looked like a horror movie, which was like, okay, this is going to be real good. And then it's more of a thriller, suspense, like psychological movie. And that even intrigued me a little bit more, with a little bit of like, what the hell is going on type of thing. And is it Matt Damon who plays
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Oh, that Leo. I get those guys mixed up. One's a Leo, one's a... Yeah, but Leo plays the shit out of this role. I feel like he is very, very good of manipulating you to see through his perspective until something else happens.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely agree. I think that DiCaprio is very good in this movie. I think that he and Ben Kingsley, who plays the main doctor, are fantastic in this movie. I would say that Ben Kingsley is actually the best performance for me in the movie.
Okay.
That's kind of like, because you don't know what his deal is until it's too late. And it's like when that reveal hits, it hits like a truck. I think that Mark Ruffalo is also great. I think that Max von Sydow, who plays the older scientist, is fantastic. I mean, there's not a weak link in this cast. I think everyone does a great job. And I don't think that there's any points off, I guess you could say, for anyone in this movie. They're all great, and they play into and they take it seriously, everything that's going on, which is good, because this movie does play it serious, as it should. It is a mystery suspense thriller.
Hmm.
Definitely, like you were saying, there is aspects of horror here and there for sure. I
Hmm.
think that this is really inspired by gothic horror. It definitely
Yeah.
has that kind of vibe and tone to it. I think that it also is a little bit Lovecraftian in a way.
Hmm.
It's not, obviously it's not supernatural. It's not dealing with you know, elder gods or anything, but like it has the same kind of like location and style. Also, I guess you could say a little bit like Edgar Allan Poe too, a little bit.
I was gonna say like Crimson Peak a little bit too.
Yeah, but there's like again, there's no supernatural to
Yeah.
it. I mean, they
Hmm.
do kind of play with the idea that there may be supernatural here and there, but there isn't.
Yeah.
The thing that really struck me about this movie, though, and it's a bit of a positive and a negative for me, and I'll get on that later. This feels like a movie that Hitchcock would have made.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Like this feels like, maybe this was a script, and it wasn't. This is based off of a book by Dennis Lehane, but I feel like this was maybe a script. Like if this script had existed back in the 50s or 60s, Hitchcock would have done it.
He
Because
would have
this
he would have
feels,
picked it up so fast.
yes, and I feel like this is straight out of like the Vertigo book. We know we just talked
Hmm.
about Vertigo 2 weeks ago. This feels like it's a very similar kind of film,
Yeah.
and so I think that they're, like we've talked about before about doing like double features, like
Oh yeah.
like Schindler's List and Zone of Interest, or whatever. I think this would be great with Vertigo.
Oh, that
Like
would be
Vertigo,
great.
Shutter Island would be a great kind of double feature, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think maybe I can go ahead and jump into the criticism that I have though, which is kind of related to what I just said. Um, that this film is so different from what Scorsese has made. Usually, Scorsese makes, you know, um, less genre film and more kind of drama. I don't want to say it's all gangster because it's not, but like more
Like
grounded pieces.
historical, I feel like.
Historical, yeah, which this technically is because it takes place in like the 40s or 50s.
Hmm.
But I think that this movie specifically, out of all the ones that I've seen from Scorsese, feels the least like a Scorsese movie.
Hmm.
And in doing so, I feel like this could have been made by anyone, and it doesn't. Like I watch the movie and I don't think Scorsese. Like
Yeah.
I watch Raging Bull, or I watch Taxi Driver, or I watch Goodfellas, or Killers of the Flower Moon, and I see Scorsese there. I don't
Hmm.
see it here. I don't think that, you know he obviously he does a great job with the movie because it looks great and it flows great, but it just doesn't feel like
Do you
his.
think he
And maybe
was?
because it's based on a book, then he didn't write the script. I mean, maybe he did. I have to double check that real quick.
But do you
But
think he was trying to branch out some of his movies? So this was one of his like, I want to try this kind of session, and that's what it looks like. He tried to go a different route than he normally is, and it worked for some people. But like you, it's not really a Scorsese film when you watch it, and maybe that's what he wanted out of it.
sure, I think that if anything, and maybe it was like he loves this story and read the
Hmm.
book and was like, I want to make a movie off of it. Maybe
Hmm.
that's what it was. And I get that because there is a passion for it. Like this film does, like, again, it feels good. It's good to watch. But like again, it just doesn't feel Scorsese. Like
Yeah.
it feels almost a little bit more like a David Fincher movie.
Okay. Yeah. I
With
can.
like
I can.
Seven or The
Yeah.
Killer. Like it's more in line with those, I think, or Zodiac. But yeah, that's just kind of one of my biggest complaints about the film. But I have another that I'll get to at some point here. But
Hmm.
I'm kind of curious, like, was there anything in the film that maybe didn't work for you? Obviously you said you really love this film
Hmm.
since the first time you watched it. Like, is there anything that you noticed that maybe didn't work for you?
Um, trying to think if there's any like cuts that I didn't like, because sometimes like in the fields there was some cuts that were pretty bad. Um, not bad. I'm not gonna. It's not like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But it was just too cutty for me. Like
Mhm.
cut here. Too many times it was cutting a little bit for me. Um, maybe because the camera work was great in this movie and the set was amazing. I loved the set in this movie because of
Yeah.
what it is. But mm, I think that not too much, not too much that I can think of.
Okay, that's yeah, totally fair. I was just curious to see what if anything had stuck out to you, and like it had for me. I think that one of my other criticisms is that I feel like the second act of this movie, the middle section, does slow down. Um, Obviously there are still things happening. You're still uncovering parts of the mystery, but I feel like the first act and the third act are so well done and so not powerful, but like influential for the story
True.
that this second act just kind of feels a little draggy. It's
Okay.
not like a major thing. Like it's not like it is bogging down the movie or whatever. It
Hmm.
just feels slower. Like the mystery is unfolding, but it doesn't feel like the major parts of the mystery for me
Hmm.
are kind of in place. And I think that like by the first time, when the first time I watched this movie and the second time for sure, like I feel like I could call the twist coming around the second act. And I think
I think
maybe that's why I started to not
enjoy it.
like the second act as much. Sure.
Yeah, well, like at the end of the second act, it was in the back of my mind. Like I have options when I watch movies. It's like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. So I always like to keep those in my mind just because I don't want to like try to spoil it myself for me. Um,
Sure.
so that's and during that second act, you're because it's a little bit slower, you're kind of thinking ahead of the movie, which I try not to do, but it's so hard not to do with this movie because you're like, okay, is it real? Is it not real? Is he the right person? Stuff like that could happen.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that that groundedness
Hmm.
is good
Yeah.
for sure. And it definitely benefits the film.
But I like what you're saying is it's like you're going on a freeway and you start off going on a freeway really fast, but then there's a wreck, kind of slows down a little bit, but then after that wreck, it speeds back up again. And maybe sometimes that's okay in a movie because you don't want it to go full speed throughout the entire time.
Sure. And I
Hmm.
think it's also kind of like maybe like a road trip itself, right?
Hmm.
The start, you're really excited and you're having fun. The
Hmm.
end, you're almost there and like the trip's almost done. But then like in the middle, you're driving through the flat farmland area, whatever, and it's not as memorable as the beginning or the end.
Yeah,
Probably
exactly.
the best way I can describe it.
Hmm. Hmm.
But those are really my minor criticisms about this movie. Though I
Yeah.
feel like this movie is a roller coaster ride with its mystery, which we should probably go ahead and just talk about the twist. We've already said we're going to spoil the film,
Hmm.
so we end up finding out that uh, this is an elaborate uh, attempt to, like, it's the last ditch attempt to heal of sorts
Hmm.
Teddy, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, mentally. He's devised this like incredible fantasy that he is a FBI agent or a Pinkerton or whatever they are supposed to be.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like they're like, okay, well, we'll go along with the fantasy. We'll see if this helps him cope,
Yeah.
right? And then which then leads to um, the one of the most like I think heart crushing endings in a movie I've seen in a while. Which after everything's said and done, he wakes up the next morning, and you're like, oh shit, he's actually like he's broken out of it. And then he sits down with Mark Ruffalo on the front steps and continues to believe the illusion. And then he just looks back at that like, fucking great moment of this movie is Mark
Hmm.
Ruffalo looking back like disappointed, like nope. And then you realize that they're gonna have to lobotomize him, and
Yeah. Oh.
it's soul crushing.
It is because
Yeah,
he gave the Scorsese gives you that little bit of hope, and it just takes it away. And it's not Mark doesn't say anything, right? He just looks back at him.
to the doctors, yes, but he does
Yeah,
say something to Leo. He's like, "Hey, what's going on, partner?"
yeah,
And then
hmm,
he goes along with it, which I guess you could say maybe he's trying to like leading him by saying partner instead of saying
hmm,
like, "Hey, what's going on?" in his actual name,
yeah,
you know.
hmm. But
But
yeah, that tugged on your heartstring because you literally were like, oh, maybe he's better, and then it's like, He's just not
It's
though.
I don't think it's so much the heartstring as much as it is like the rug gets pulled out from underneath you and you come
That's true.
tumbling to
Okay.
the floor. You know,
Hmm.
like that's when it feels like it's just dark. And I think that that is what helps this movie along is its darkness. This is
Oh
not
yeah.
an easy. It's not okay. It's not a hard movie to watch, but like if you're not looking for something that's very dark or thematic, a little bit disturbing with like the child killing stuff, but like
Yeah.
it's not like a hard watch, but it is definitely like it's one of those movies you have to be in the mood for to be
Or
kind of like emotionally kind of all over the place as the film goes,
yeah.
which I mean, more people should be open to that, but it's
Hmm.
yeah, I think that the ending of this movie is, I think, in my list of like the top 100 endings, maybe top
Hmm.
50 endings in
Yeah.
film, just because of like, again, that floor just comes crumbling out from beneath you,
Yeah.
and
Because
it's great.
yeah, and the way they went off of it first, where you see him waking up and you feel like it's a new day, it's a new person, he's back to where he is, and then it just it was horrible. Oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
like I like the 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 studio work in it. I don't know if this is a real place, the hospital that they filmed at.
Let me take a look.
But oh my gosh, that thing is gorgeous if it is. And the way how rustic and old it looks, and it's perfect for this movie because this was like in the 30s, 20s,
It's the film takes place in like the 40s or 50s,
40s, 50s, and
because it's post World War II.
and it looks like that too. And that's what I love when they can get me into that scene without telling me, hey, this is 1950. It's just the way it looks makes it look where the timeline should be. And when you walk up to the asylum, you're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
old. So,
So this is in fact filmed at the old Medfield State Hospital in Medfield, Massachusetts.
oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that's why it looks so good.
I believe the hotel, like the not the hotel, the hospital is like maintained. So I'm actually in researching here. It looks like they did like a pop up drive-in style showing of the movie at the hospital,
Oh, that's cool.
which is pretty cool. I wish
Uh-huh.
more places would do that. Like there's like the ranch out in Hawaii where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be cool to do like a big showing out there.
That'd
Just
be
saying.
sick.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
available for work. Ranch, hire me. But no, I think that like it is a gorgeous set, and I think that because it has that location is why it radiates the gothic tone, like like
Mm-hmm.
that old horror Lovecraftian Edgar Allan Poe style, which
Mm-hmm.
is so fantastic about this movie. Like it's those styles mixed with the post World War II drama, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely think it's like I said, I don't think it's one of Scorsese's best films by any means, but I do think that it is a very strong one, and it's very
And
different too, for
it's
better or
different.
worse.
It's different, and I like how it all stayed on the island. We didn't get any glimpse of outside of the island that I can remember.
There's a
So
couple of flashbacks, but mostly we're on the island.
yeah, but it's like it's literally it's like you stay in one place throughout the whole movie, but it feels so big to you that it doesn't feel like one place.
Yeah, and that's one of the best parts of the production, or the
Hmm.
production design, excuse me, is that it feels big yet you're on an island.
Yeah,
It's
and you don't know how big the island is, so they just it's an island. So they
yeah,
don't give you like a parameter or anything like that. So that's what, oh, that was so cool.
yeah, it's fantastic. It is a recommended film. I would say that it is better if you haven't seen it before.
Yeah.
I think that upon rewatches, you definitely can pick up where things are happening,
Hmm.
and where, like, if once you know the twist, like the language they're using with him, and like
Hmm.
it does stand out. It may be good for a second viewing. Like afterward, if you're like you want to see where all the hints and clues were.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not a film that I'm always dying to watch.
Yeah.
If it's on, like, if it's on a live stream, or I hate to say this because it doesn't exist anymore. If it was on TV, I would, I would sit there and probably watch it, but it's not something that I'm going to seek out to watch again because I feel like, it's kind of hard with some mysteries, right? Because once you know what the mystery is, it kind of loses its value. And so, unlike a film like Knives Out, which is just so well made that you want to keep watching it, this one's kind of like, okay, I understand. And, I don't need to watch it again. Will I watch it again? Possibly, like in the future.
Like, say if my sister, our good friend Stacy, wants to watch this movie, I will sit down and watch it with her again.
Sure,
just to see her face when everything happens that's priceless for a first time watcher, because you're sitting there like, okay, here comes and there's the realization.
Yeah. Like, it feels good. I also feel like this is a thriller, a mystery thriller that you could kind of skirts the line. Like if you like our friend Nadia, I don't know if I don't know if she would enjoy the movie, but I feel like people who are like deep into horror may get something out of this as well, because it does flirt and kind of skirt with the horror genre in places. It definitely is more of a suspenseful film. So I feel like some people who are into horror would really enjoy it. As opposed to a movie like Knives Out, that's in the same genre.
Would you say maybe not, I don't want to say introduction to horror, but like that's hard. I wouldn't say that. Like
if you're trying to like transition into watching more horror movies, I think that this would be like one of the first ones you could watch, because it's not scary, yet there are elements of gothic horror, of Lovecraftian and Poe horror, like they're there, the inspirations are there, but it's not like a horror movie. I almost kind of think the opposite, right? People who are trying to expand out of maybe the horror genre, this would be a good one to watch, because it definitely has those aspects to it,
those ties to it. Totally understandable. I've tried to get Nadia to watch this one, but if she doesn't want to watch it, she doesn't want to watch it. I'm not going to force her.
Never force anyone to watch anything. That's just a good piece of advice to have. Like don't expect someone to like it either. Like
no.
Like I've met people who do not enjoy this movie. Some people it's because they just think it's too dark. Like it's too too sad, too depressing. But other people, like I've met a couple people who have guessed the twist from the first 10 minutes.
Really? Oh, that just ruins the whole movie.
It ruins it for them, right? Because like I try not to let that get to me. I feel like if there's a movie with a twist in it, I feel like I kind of understand what the twist may be, but I'm like I could be wrong. I'm like, I want to be proven wrong, and I'll never hold it against a movie though if I guess the twist. That's my own problem. The fact that I guess the twist doesn't mean that the movie failed. It just means that I didn't go in with the right mindset or whatever it may be. It hasn't happened in a while.
That's why I like having options in my head. It's like it makes you think about the other options and maybe the one that could be correct when watching like these types of, especially with like murder mysteries. When you watch like Clue or Knives Out or something like that, you kind of, well, it could be this person, but what if it's this person? So you give yourself a couple of options so you don't ruin anything that comes at the end of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, Kevin, this was your pick this week. I'm going to go ahead and give my review first. Like I said earlier, you can read the full review on Letterboxd right now. But I think that this movie is a really good piece of like Hitchcock-inspired, gothic horror-inspired mystery thriller kind of pulp style film, and I think that it is a lot of fun to watch, especially on a first viewing where you don't know anything. I do think that the film does slow down a little bit during the middle, which is a little unfortunate. The middle part is not as memorable as the beginning or end, but in addition to that, it doesn't really feel like a Scorsese movie. It just kind of maybe feels like an experimentation in different genres. But for me, the film is still good. I did give it an 84 out of 100, and I do have it at a 4 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Yep. All right. Well, I gave it very close to you, an 85 out of 100. So if you just want to watch a movie and you haven't watched it before, that you don't know the twist or anything like that, this is one of those movies where you get a little bit mind boggled when you first watch it and you're trying to understand everything all at once, and then it all comes back to you up in a little bow, little present at the end, which I always love those movies, and they always explain everything at the end, kind of. And that's why I gave it 4 stars out of 5 stars as well. Very good horror psychological thriller movie. And if you like Knives Out and you haven't seen this one, definitely see this one.
So the question now falls to you. What did you think of Shutter Island? Go ahead and leave those comments down in the comment section down below. But remember to be respectful of one another, because you don't know which one is telling the truth and which one's actually an insane asylum member. Next week, we'll be covering the classic comedy Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Make sure to watch it before next week, before we cover it, so you aren't spoiled on the film. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us here on Real Watchers on YouTube and everywhere you can follow us on social media and everywhere at Real Watchers, REEL Watchers. And make sure you catch our weekly live stream every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we go over movie news, reviews, and so much more, and just hanging out with you guys. We absolutely love doing that. So those are on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And until next time, make sure to keep your eyes on the screen.